Hey there, Cinemaster fans!
鬼佬，
我这放的都是
Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. The movie starts today with an executioner in ancient China, tasked with beheading a specific prisoner accused of a heinous crime. However, before the executioner carries out the sentence, the prisoner speaks to the humanity within him and swears his innocence. The executioner feels convinced by his words and makes the greatest mistake of his career by cutting the prisoner's bonds and letting him escape. At the time, it was said that any executioner who disobeys orders brings a curse upon the entire land. The prisoner runs quickly to his home and hides there for 10 whole years with his wife. Years later, the executioner passes by the prisoner's house, and the wife invites him in to thank him. The prisoner emerges from the room, kneels before the executioner, and expresses his gratitude. But at that moment, something very strange happens. The executioner swears to the prisoner's wife that he beheaded her husband, as if his mind couldn't comprehend that he had disobeyed orders. While he's speaking with the wife, he suddenly sees the prisoner's head being severed on its own, and the wife's body completely vanishes. Without warning, the executioner is transported to another world, representing hell, to face punishment for defying orders. The scene shifts to the execution ground, with a new executioner, Qi, tasked with beheading a female prisoner accused of practicing black magic. Qi sharpens his legendary sword and prepares to strike, but the sorceress looks into his eyes, paralyzing him momentarily. During this brief pause, the sorceress's men attack the area, engaging in a deadly battle with the guards. Qi regains his composure and fights back, striking one of the attackers to the ground. However, the sorceress uses her immense power to break her chains. Qi notices and attacks her, but she evades his strikes and flips into the air, eventually landing a powerful kick to his chest. Two of Qi's disciples rush to restrain her, and Qi leaps into the air with his sword to execute her. But once again, the sorceress strikes his disciples and then targets Qi himself, delivering a kick to his chest. A fierce battle ensues between them, with heavy blows exchanged until the sorceress injures Qi's hand with her claws. Enraged, Qi fights back with all his might and raises his sword to kill her. The sorceress tries to stop him by looking into his eyes again, but Qi counters with a kick, pushing her away. Disaster strikes as the time allocated for the execution expires. Despite this, Qi remains determined to complete his mission. As the sorceress tries to escape, he hurls his sword at her, severing her head. The moment the sorceress dies, the bodies of her men mysteriously evaporate. Later, Qi meets with the judge, who wants to punish him according to the people's demands, claiming that Qi has brought a curse upon them. However, Qi convinces the judge that he is the only one capable of stopping the country's most dangerous gang and capturing them. The judge agrees and assigns him this mission. Meanwhile, a woman named Sue and her apprentice, two con artists pretending to have magical powers, arrive in a village with a wealthy man and his daughter. They claim that a legendary sword is buried atop a high mountain. The man, eager to increase his wealth, follows them up the mountain. Sue's apprentice performs some fake magical rituals to extract more money from him, claiming the treasure is beneath their feet. The man orders his men to dig immediately, but within moments the ground erupts with countless terrifying snakes and insects. The man watches his men die before his eyes, panics, and flees with his daughter. Elsewhere, Qi is frustrated by the public's criticism of him. His disciples notice his anger and try to comfort him, but Qi explains that he has no regrets about killing the sorceress, as his primary duty is to eliminate evil. That same night, Qi addresses the villagers, assuring them that ghosts and curses do not exist, and promising to prove his point over time. Moments later, the village doctor finishes his work and heads home, only to encounter the spirit of the sorceress. Terrified, his heart races as he runs to Qi for protection. Everyone, including the soldiers, is paralyzed with fear and flees. The sorceress's ghost twists and contorts in a horrifying manner, demanding her body and head be returned. When Qi refuses, 4 coffins suddenly fly through the air and land before him. 4 terrifying ghosts emerge, accusing Qi of violating the rules by beheading her, and warn him that his inevitable fate is death. Enraged, Qi declares that he will continue fulfilling his duties no matter the cost and openly challenges them. One of the ghosts attacks him with a sharp weapon attached to a chain, but Qi skillfully dodges the strike. Just as he grabs his sword to fight, the ghosts vanish. The next day, Qi places the sorceress's head in a box, locks it, and decides that if the lid remains undisturbed for 3 days, he will burn the head. If the lid is removed, he will sew the head back onto the body and burn them both together. However, he refuses to surrender her body to the ghosts. Later, Qi goes to sleep in his room but suddenly senses someone approaching. He grabs his sword and begins fighting, only to realize that his opponent is Sue, his old childhood friend and former lover. They grew up together but hadn't seen each other in years. Recognizing her, Chi stops fighting and prevents his disciples from intervening. Sue reveals that she came to borrow his sword, but Chi refuses, knowing she would exploit people for money. Upset, Sue leaves, but moments later, the lid of the box containing the sorceress's head is removed. Chi doesn't wait until morning and takes the head to a body stitcher. While the stitcher sews the head onto the body, Chi asks why he hasn't considered changing his profession. Suddenly, a strange insect appears and going into the tailor's side. At that moment, Chip is shocked as strange insects emerge from the tailor's mouth, killing him. The bigger shock is that the corpse disappears at that time. Chip quickly returns home and starts searching for a book about the sect to which the witch belongs. He locks himself away for days, reading the book to understand their plans. Later, he finally emerges and gathers his students, informing them that the sect of witches is the gang they've been searching for. Even worse, they stole the corpse to perform certain rituals to bring it back to life and make it immortal. In that era, immortality was akin to being an emperor in the eyes of the people. On the same night, a wealthy man is sitting in his house, removing his gold tooth before going to sleep. However, he doesn't notice that one of the ghosts is in the room with him. As soon as he falls asleep, the ghost approaches to kill him, but suddenly, he hears the door opening. At that point, we find Sue and her assistant entering to rob the man. The ghost quickly hides and throws his chain at the assistant, but at the last moment, the assistant dodges the blow because she hears the man talking in his sleep. She and Sue then approach him to steal the ring on his hand. Suddenly, they hear the door opening again, so they quickly hide near the ghost, mistaking it for a statue. All three are shocked to discover that the man's daughter has entered to steal his money. At that moment, Sue accidentally bumps into the ghost without realizing it, but she screams upon seeing its face. The man's daughter runs away, and the man himself wakes up screaming. They all flee from the ghost. However, Sue's greed compels her and the assistant to try stealing the money before escaping. The ghost then throws its chain at them, tying up Sue, the assistant, and the wealthy man together. Sue, finding no other way to escape, throws the money at the ghost's face, allowing them all to flee. Meanwhile, Chip hears their screams and takes them with him to the palace. While the man blames Sue, she pretends to faint. Suddenly, the man screams, realizing his daughter is missing. At that moment, she is running from the ghosts, but encounters one of Chip's students. She feels reassured upon realizing he is human. He tells her the location of the judge's palace, and she rushes there, entering angrily to confront her father for not looking for her. The big disaster is that they discover the man's house has burned down. He laments his destroyed home and stolen money, becoming furious with Sue and seeking revenge. However, Chip intervenes and promises to take Sue to the grave where the sword is located and retrieve it for him. Indeed, Chip takes Sue to the grave, but there they find many corpses on the ground, with insects devouring their entrails. Suddenly, ghosts and cursed corpses emerge from the ground. One of the ghosts approaches Sue to kill her, but Chip quickly defends her, striking the ghost with great force and throwing it away. He then realizes that the gang is responsible for casting a spell at the grave to eliminate them. He draws his sword and attacks the ghosts with all his strength, killing them one by one until he discovers that he is standing within the spell's circle. He strikes the ground with his sword inside the circle, but suddenly, a ghost attacks Sue, injuring her side. Chip quickly kills the ghost and strikes the ground inside the circle again. With every strike, the ghosts begin to evaporate until they all disappear. Afterward, they are surprised to find the wealthy man and his men surrounding them. The man accuses them of lying, especially since Chip tells him that the ghosts attack them, even though the man didn't see any ghosts. What he didn't notice was that the witches had used a magical insect to hide in his clothes without his knowledge. Later, Chip and Sue are taken back to the palace. The man takes the sword from Chip, claiming it will bring him wealth. Chip begs him to let it go, in exchange for retrieving the sword he truly desires. However, the man laughs arrogantly, believing he has already achieved his goal. Suddenly, the magical insect infiltrates his body and kills him in front of Chip. The insect then emerges to attack Chip, but he quickly raises his sword and cuts the insect in a spectacular move, slicing it apart. However, the shock comes when the insect vanishes within seconds. At that moment, the man's daughter enters the room and finds Chip holding the sword near her father's corpse. Naturally, everyone assumes that Chip killed him. As a result, the judge immediately orders his imprisonment. Chip's students visit him to understand what happened. He explains that the ghost's attack confirmed that the gang had planned everything from the beginning. He instructs them to inform Sue, as she was with him and would believe him. The catastrophe is that while people are preoccupied with Chip's case, the witches' ghosts attack the village and abduct all the girls. This causes an uproar, with people rushing to the judge the next day, demanding Chip's execution, blaming him for the curse. Meanwhile, the witches celebrate, as their plan for immortality is nearing success. At this time, one of Chip's students checks on the wealthy man's daughter and tries to explain that Chip is innocent. However, she is furious and drives him away. The student decides to leave her until she calms down before returning. But as soon as he leaves, ghosts enter and abduct her in the blink of an eye. The student immediately goes to free Chip, accompanied by Sue. Meanwhile, Sue's assistant faces 3 of the witch's most powerful ghosts, trying to match their immense strength but ultimately failing. If Chip hadn't intervened in time, she would have perished. Chip and Sue then engage in a fierce battle with the ghosts. Strikes are exchanged, with flips in the air, until one of the ghosts strikes Sue hard, knocking her to the ground. At the same time, Chip attacks another ghost, stabbing it in the leg and kicking it in the face. He quickly grabs his sword, slashes its neck, and finishes it off. At that very moment, Sue unexpectedly strikes and decapitates the second ghost. Meanwhile, the third ghost manages to escape quickly, but Chi notices blood dripping from the ghosts and also sees insects emerging from their bodies. This confirms to him that they are humans being controlled by the sorcerers using their magical insects. Chi then gathers his followers and rushes to his library, only to find his entire house turned upside down. The first thing he does is hang up a picture of his mentor. After that, he pulls out a map and explains the gang's plan to his followers, pinpointing the exact location where the rituals will take place. Before they can move, however, a group of warriors appears at the door, insisting on joining them to defeat the gang and protect their homeland. Meanwhile, the ghost who escaped goes to the sorceress in utter disappointment, especially after failing to kill Chi. However, he manages to calm her anger by informing her that he has kidnapped the daughter of a wealthy man. The sorceress then places the head and body among the girls she has completely bewitched, deciding to perform the immortality rituals before Chi can uncover her plan and stop her. The shocking twist is that she plans to offer all the village girls as sacrifices by forcing them to throw themselves off the mountain. Just as the sorceress begins her incantations, Chi and his followers arrive. Before the battle starts, Chi gives his team special pills to protect them from the sorceress's influence. Suddenly, they launch an attack on her lair, fighting her men while Chi focuses on her. The sorceress levitates into the air, revealing the faces of the bewitched girls. It becomes clear that the girls are under a spell, and they attack Chi without hesitation. After a fierce struggle, Chi discovers that their enchantment is tied to the jars beneath their feet. He quickly smashes one jar after another, freeing the girls. While his men battle the sorceress's forces, Chi confronts the sorceress herself, attempting to defeat her. However, her extraordinary combat skills overwhelm him, and she kicks him, sending him flying. At the last moment, Chi steadies himself with his sword and regains his balance. The two then pause to exchange words, revealing that the sorceress is the twin sister of the sorceress Chi had previously killed. She confesses that her actions are driven by vengeance for her sister's death and her desire to punish the villagers who falsely accused her family of practicing dark magic. When strange diseases began spreading in the village, the townsfolk blamed her family, burning their bodies in front of her eyes in the very spot where they now stand. Angered by Chi for ruining her sinister plans, the sorceress attacks him to exact her revenge. However, with his exceptional skills, Chi manages to subdue her and raises his sword to end her life. In a shocking turn, she gains control over him, dragging him into a hellish realm filled with the corpses of those he has killed. Demons taunt him, claiming that his place is among them. Despite this, Chi refuses to accept their words, recounting the crimes of the people he killed. In the real world, the sorceress continues to control Chi, and none of his followers can stop her. She is moments away from throwing him off the mountain when one of his followers intervenes at the last second, taking the blow meant for Chi. At that moment, Chi resolves to fight the demons in defense of his principles and his duty to his country to eliminate evil. He raises his sword and fiercely attacks the demons, ultimately defeating them. Chi returns to the real world and resumes his fight against the sorceress. One of his disciples runs to her sister's corpse, throwing burning ashes on it, setting it ablaze. The sorceress rushes to her sister's body, breaking down in tears as she recalls their childhood and her promise to protect her. Overcome with memories of the past, the sorceress becomes distracted, giving Chi the opportunity to swiftly decapitate her. In the end, Chi decides to retire, passing his sword to one of his disciples while assuring him that he will remain by his side to help him make critical decisions. It is revealed that Chi chose to marry Sue and live a peaceful life away from the evils of the world. The film concludes with this. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next film.